episode of 1923 Main Street.
Home of everything to do with Disney travel in style. We are your hosts.
I am Mike Braddock.
And I'm Amelia Braddock. And today, the big difference between hoodies and sweatshirts and what really made them that way.
Yeah, and we've been having our own personal debate about this here, so I'm sure you'll appreciate that. I know some of our listeners, enjoy when Amelia and I disagree on things. And this came from a reader inquiry, and the inquiry, I don't know. The inquiry was about why we sometimes don't have the same graphic on a sweatshirt and a hoodie. And this got me thinking about the bigger picture. If you listen to our show, you will recall we did a pretty interesting episode recently on the history of the hoodie. I'll put a link to it in the blog post. And how the hoodie evolved. So let's think about this. The hoodie evolved from the sweatshirt. So the sweatshirt was a garment being worn by army training and things like that. But they were getting a little cold, so they added a hood and a kangaroo pouch to it. And so the hoodie became a new item offshoot of the sweatshirt. My belief is when they did that, the hoodie changed dramatically into a whole new garment, not just a sweatshirt, and almost became an outer layer, almost like a coat, where you have a hoodie and you'll often wear a t-shirt under it and take the hoodie off. But who wears a t-shirt under a sweatshirt?
Well, some people.
This is where the debate comes in. Go ahead. Tell me your story.
Okay. Well, I definitely agree. I think especially in younger demographics, a lot of the time, nobody wants to bring a coat. So you just pop on a hoodie over top because it's more versatile inside and outside. So there's definitely that added layer of, especially with kids, hoodies being more so of a coat, just because it's a little bit warmer, like on the neck. You're subconsciously warmer with that than with a sweatshirt on, and it has a little pocket jacket-like things that sweatshirts don't necessarily have.
And there, of course, as we know, one of my arguments back is we now have the zip-up hoodie. We don't do those. We haven't done any yet, but I mean, that's even more jacket-like. You're not going to have a zip-up hoodie with no shirt under it, or if you do...
No, that's just odd.
That's not the look you want. Maybe in, the 80s or something, the unzipped, shirtless guy with the hoodie on. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, guys maybe. Girls, probably not.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not on Disney property, I'll tell you that. Anyway, so... I sort of believe the hoodie leans outerwear and the sweatshirt leans innerwear, so to speak. It's a gray area. Get it? Gray hoodie. But you disagree with that, do you?
I don't disagree. I just think that I wear t-shirts under both.
But the real point of this and the real question that was raised is, it's all related to this on a couple of fronts. Why, in some cases, do we deem that a given graphic design, whatever it is hoodie appropriate, sweatshirt appropriate, or both? Sometimes they're both. More often than not, we tend to veer, this is good for a hoodie, this is good for a sweatshirt. And there's a few reasons why that can be.
I think it really mainly just comes down to vibe, honestly. You look at the design and you're like, what feels better? What just gives the better energy? That's how you have to go off it.
Now,
in my humble opinion.
You would say that as the sort of creative feedback on a lot of our graphic designs. Me as the one who's looking at the more technical layout of these things.
Listen.
There's two things.
I own a fair bit of concert merchandise, sweatshirts and hoodies, so I think I basically know what I'm talking about.
Well, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should with design. There's a lot of ugly designs on hoodies that don't belong on hoodies. In my professional design experience as a graphic apparel creator. And here's why I think that. There's two reasons. One, there's the technical reason that a hoodie has less space, right? Because you have the kangaroo pocket and, the ties come down. But really, your graphic printing space on a hoodie on the front anyway is smaller. So that dictates to some degree what can fit in that space. But the bigger thing for me personally, and that you will see in our designs, and to the interested individual who asked about this specific, why is this on a sweatshirt but not on a hoodie? Hoodies I view as having simpler and more iconic graphics on the front. You see a lot of schools and things. So our Park Hop Athletics, our Rope Drop apparel, simple, bold, coat-like graphics.
Well, I don't disagree. I just think that putting anything, like even on a sweatshirt, it gets too all over the place. So I just don't like that generally.
Yeah, and as sweatshirts, I view them as leaning more towards a t-shirt in terms of there's a larger print space for starters, but we can do more colors and more of an involved, detailed graphic on a sweatshirt. You don't wear sweatshirts as frequently. Like you could wear a hoodie, the same one, every single day, right? Because it's your hoodie. So you tend to want to flash your team or whatever it is on your hoodie. It's like a coat. It's like a branded coat. A sweatshirt as akin to a t-shirt is different.
Well, I'm definitely more of a crew neck girly. If it does tend to be true that most major designs, at least with concert merchandise and different brands that pump things out, a lot of the time the hoodies are the things that are easier to rewear.
Yeah, and concert merch is a sort of a unique category because this is an interesting spin-off to this conversation. We've only done a few of these front and back ones so far.
I was just going to say that. With the hoodie, it adds an element of difficulty when adding a design to the back.
And this is the reason, personally, I don't buy a lot of concert merch, is because it is almost the badge of design to overdo it. They're overdone on the front. They've got all these cities on the back. There's just so much, too much printing on them. So, but that's what people expect from that specific category of clothing. Same with their t-shirts, right? I mean, they'll print the same thing in many times on a t-shirt and sweatshirt. But would they put it on a hoodie or would they adapt the design differently?
I think it's interesting because the hood on the back cuts into a good portion of the design space. Like it cuts the back area of possible design in almost half, depending on the size of the hood. It cuts it down quite a bit. So when you're designing, I don't want to consider if you're buying a hoodie and there's something up high, you have to consider that it might not be seen.
Yeah, we try to move them down a little bit on the back of the hoodie.
But then it's a very sweet spot because then it starts to look like, well, this is just randomly like
yeah,
in the
but is
middle
it any difference than you wearing a sweatshirt and your hair's covering the back of it?
Yes, because I say so.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, if you really care, you can put a ponytail in your hair, I guess, to make sure that people can read the back of your sweatshirt.
One thing I will say that they're similar on, though, is sleeve design.
Sleeve design. There you go. They are similar. We've done a few sleeves as well so far in our collections. Yeah.
Because that element of a sweatshirt, obviously you don't get in a regular t-shirt. Even in a long sleeve t-shirt, I don't think it's as common to have sleeve design. So that definitely leans more hoodie, but it gives you more to work with than just a typical like t-shirt design that you're fully transferring over. It adds another element of something.
So all of this to say, to wrap up this week's episode, short and sweet one, is that if you're wondering why, not just at our shop, but at any shop, why certain things aren't just plastered the same across every type of apparel, this is why. You want to consider how the apparel is worn and used, how much space there is, what will look good on it, cramming the same design on everything. Not always a great idea.
Well, that's why it's kind of interesting to think about that before you judge. I know it's so easy to be like, oh, well, why is that singer's merch like that?
Are you calling me judging?
No, I am
judgy.
I'm judgy. I look at different people's merch or in stores and I'm like, well, why would you design it like that? But sometimes you kind of have to think, well, how else would you do it? What would you change?
I think you should care that we are judgy because the point is, here at 1923 Main Street, we do take a lot of time to think about these types of things, where we're putting the graphics, what do they look like, what colors are they used. Look at our hoodies, you'll see they tend to be iconic in nature in that way. We're a little more freestyle with t-shirts and sweatshirts and other things, that we sell.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to consider because lots of times, singers will do a merch drop or a brand will do a collab and they'll drop it and people are like, well, now see, why would you do that? Why would you make that decision? That doesn't look good.
And
because they might not be considering all of the things.
Exactly. And that's one thing I'll often, I don't always talk about it. I will now, but I notice, and I'm sure you do, even if you don't think about it as a listener here, bad design from good design. And so the thought of the popular brands that you know and love, people care about, and Disney too, for that matter, even though they love their bold, overly done colors, they do think about design in that sense. Although it strikes me they think less about that in their merch than they do in their park Imagineering.
Now, see, maybe I'm just a hater to convince myself not to buy all of these things because I own far too many sweatshirts and hoodies. We'll never really know.
All right, on that note, buy more sweatshirts. No.
I can't. I have no closet space.
That's a good point. All right, everyone. And to the interested party, I hope this helped answer the question a little bit further. Thanks, as always, for listening. Follow along on social media at 1923 Main Street. Have a question like this about design in our apparel? Send it out to us. It could be an episode. We love answering questions like this. Visit our website at 1923mainstreet.com. We'll see you again next week and have a magical day.
Bye-bye.